Hey guys, what's up? It's Brandon. This week on the show, we have Wes Langdon from Southern California. He is the first installment of what we're calling FDB Listener Created Content. It's pretty awesome. You're going to get to hear what's going on in Southern California, what it's like to be a one-man band, and the hustle is real. So take a listen. I think you're really going to enjoy the show. So cheers to the West Coast. You're listening to Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon.
What's up, world? I'm Wes.
I'm David.
And we're Filmmakers.
We're drinking bourbon.
Cheers, buddy. So this is, what do we got here? We got Bullet Frontier, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Big, frequent guest of the show, Bullet. They had the master whiskey on. That was really cool getting to learn about that. Found out the whole Kentucky thing is largely marketing, which is really interesting. So we are not Brandon. We are not Alex. They took a week off, and this is our first attempt at having guest contributors to the podcast, and I'm super excited that we were asked by Brandon recently to take over an episode, give it a shot, try out the keeping the format alive. They've worked super hard to establish this brand, and I know all of us listeners are really thankful for the work that they've done in creating this community to talk and learn and hear from other people that are just working filmmakers outside of the Hollywood 1%. It's kind of nice. So, again, my name is Wes Langdon. I own Firehouse Creative here in Southern California. I started off doing graphic and branding for about 10 years now. I am 26 and a few years ago wanted to start my own business doing it for real on paper with Uncle Sam and everything. And went from branding and graphic design, and that kind of morphed into web design as well, which then added in my existing musicianship into audio production. And then about a year ago, got really, really interested in diving more into filmmaking, and then done it some stuff back in school. And Dave here was really helpful with getting me going in that, and has been a friend of mine for a long time now. And when he had an opportunity to take over the podcast, he was the first one that came to mind. So, Dave, if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of what you do.
Sure. I'm a graduate of the University of Southern California. Spent a couple of years there on a full ride scholarship, just studying film, and went into it thinking, I want to make epic movies. I want to go the Hollywood route. I want to make Braveheart. I want to make, Lawrence of Arabia. And while I was there, kind of found out that I didn't really actually want to do that. I wanted to make films, just about stories and messages that maybe weren't the big movie, but were smaller movies that you could actually reasonably make on your own. So I really started looking at independent film. It was right around the time of the digital revolution, where the DVX 100. I don't know, going back to the Panasonic, it was the first 24p camera, and it's like, oh man, you can actually make a film on this, and you couldn't, but it was the first step. And so I bought one of those, did some things, kind of opened my own business. And really, from outside of LA, we're about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of LA, and just started making films on my own, doing some competition films, things like that, learning every step of the way. We have gone from doing competition films to there's a field called sermon media for churches. We create these little 2-3 minute videos, sometimes even shorter, for use in church services and worship services, things like that. Found some success there, catapulted that to a short film, 30 minutes, that we took to festivals and kind of did a little bit of the festival circuit. And then now we're working on our first feature film. Also the husband of one wife and father of 2 children.
That's funny. You mentioned that DVX 100. They just talked about that a few episodes ago. It was the first real popular prosumer camera that could do 24p, and clients didn't know. People weren't aware of 60p versus 24, but they're like, that looks like a movie.
Yeah,
I get it. It doesn't look like that European. They don't know how to put their finger on it, but they still know. That's funny that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about this feature film you're working on.
It's actually a project that I thought about in college. I used to spend hours in the library between classes. I would commute to school and, just sit there and work on homework, waste time, think about stories, work on scripts, things like that. And I had this idea of, this guy who kind of, and most guys have a kind of a fantasy girl, like this would be my ideal girl. And I just thought about, well, what would that be like if, he was an artist and he actually painted like what this person would look like. And he had like an actual list of details and, just that like this crazy man. And
it's by no means a short list. I'm assuming.
No, not a short list, right? I mean, because we're very detailed, like, you have to like baseball or, you should have this specific accent or things like that. So, the concept kind of came and we have, just the style of filmmaking that I'm in, the genre of filmmaking, we do a lot of faith-based stuff, and there's just a solid message to it as far as, you don't need to find the right person, but you need to be the right person. Be someone who can love someone else, rather than looking for someone to complete you through their love, and kind of just taken that concept that was in college. Ran into another gal who is in Corona, which is about 35, 40 minutes away. She's a writer. Through the process, I found out that I'm not a writer, much more a director and a producer. And she just took the story and some of the notes that I had, developed it out. And then we had the script, and now we're like, okay, well, what do we do with it? And we said, okay, well, we're gonna try to raise some money, and we're gonna try to do this, legit, and get people paid and call in our favors, and so that's been the beginning of the journey. One of the things that with this film that I've learned, we went through the competition films. We did the 48-hour film project, and there's another 168-hour project, and I don't know, all of these projects where you make a film in a limited amount of time, and we'd go in and focus on one piece of filmmaking. And every time we'd met with success, we'd win awards. I gathered a kind of a crew here in Temecula of all places, and we could make a film. But the problem is that making a film is really not even a half of what you're trying to do, right? Because the real goal is that people would watch this film and that you would be able to make other films in the future. So I started really digging into distribution because, everybody asks, okay, how do you get financing? And really the way you get financing is you have to understand distribution and how you're going to make your money back, so that you can convince someone else to give you money. Right. Because, nobody wants to invest in the guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
So really started looking at distribution. There's a book, the title's totally escaping me, but it's by Jeff Oline, I think is his name. Maybe Wes can put in the podcast notes or something. I'll get to him later. But it's just the business of film distribution. And it was just, a good book to look at the historic patterns of distribution and how you make your money back on a film. And read that, kind of looked at that, started putting together a business plan, and then started hosting meetings. And, there was a pastor friend of mine actually who we were sitting talking one day, and he said, what you need to ask people is not, can you invest in my film, but who do you know that could invest? And who do you know that would be interested? And so that's what we started doing. And we just have conversations with people, and it was very low pressure. It took us about a year and a half. We were blessed to have one particular investor that my co-writer and I, we had a pretty good idea that he would be interested early on. And he was, and he kind of came in right at the beginning, and he was like, yeah, this sounds like it would be interesting. I'm really interested in hearing more about it and kind of going into it. So he came in at like 10,000 right away, and he kind of committed to that. And then
you're done. Your financing is done. That's all you need.
Yeah. I wish $10,000 would be a fairly low budget film, right? As he heard more, then he would up his investment as he got more excited. And as he got more excited, then he would bring other people in, or, we would meet other people through. I found one investor through my tax attorney.
Wow.
I found, another investor through another person who's on the crew. It's really just, I don't know. Like I say, it took a year and a half. We did 4 investors presentations. I did a lot of phone calls. Just asking people, okay, who else can we get? And when the investors are excited about it, they're looking for people too.
Do you find that this is a lot of, just affluent people who are like, I would love to invest in this? Or is these people who have a habit of investing in film? Or is it people who kind of like getting involved in just projects in general? Is it a lot of film people?
Yeah, my group of investors is somewhat unique because they're all coming into it for 3 reasons. One is they're bored with other investment. This is something different. They understand it's a risk. They understand it's a high reward, but they're not used to this. They're not usually investing in things that are like this. This is just unique. Who doesn't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm a film mogul?
Well, sure, yeah. They want their fingerprints on a movie. Everyone thinks that's so cool. It's like learning how to play drums.
Yep, and they get to be on set, and they get to meet the actors, and they get to be part of that.
It's fascinating for people who aren't typically part of it to be able to have their own little real life behind the scenes and be like, oh, this is what this brings me.
Yes,
now.
if you present a situation that's genuine.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be Hollywood, but it has to be professional.
Yeah.
Because they're not interested in investing in a student film or your passion project. They want to invest in a business.
Yeah, it's money. You gotta make money.
But they're also, they are people who love the arts. So it's not foreign to them to put money towards an artistic investment. The third thing is, all of my investors are people of faith. They're all Christians and want to have a positive message out in the internet.
They're looking at it as like a ministry thing.
They want to make their money back.
Sure.
But they see as like, hey, if I'm going to invest in something risky, if I'm going to take the chance of losing money,
may as well be a good cause.
May as well be a good cause. Right. Yeah.
Have you found that the financing process is different between a 30-minute short and a full-length feature, even though obviously the length is more? Do you find that it's a completely different hurdle, or is it just proportionately more money?
Well, the financing for the 30-minute short we did, we actually did a Indiegogo campaign for that, and we raised $6,000. Kind of shot it on 6. We raised $100,000. We're shooting it on 100K. So it's a very different investment process because we have an LLC, we have contracts, we have
the movie is writing the checks.
There's a separate entity,
right?
The 30-minute film, nobody had interest in it. People were just giving to the film. They were just supporting.
It's an investment in you at that point too.
Yeah. Well, and the 30-minute film, they're supporting us.
Right.
The feature length, 90, 110-minute film, they're still investing in you, but they're not investing in you because they like you. They're investing in you because they believe in you.
Right.
And they believe in that you can do this.
That's funny you mentioned about the LLC. I think I interned at Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank for about 6 months, and I think that one of the first things that blew my mind, besides I get my own office, was I can't believe the amount of paperwork and just logistical production that goes into a movie. I was told every picture becomes its own entity with the state. It's a business.
Yeah.
It writes checks, and then basically we buy the movie as a property, essentially. And just every movie has got its own legal department, and it's just crazy. So when you go from, this is our student film, this is our film festival short, to this is a feature film that we're going to have financed and distributed, it takes on such a huge different beast than just being a little project, because you have to do it all the right way.
Yeah.
If you go buy, your Atomos, you got to be able to say like the movie bought it. Like it's,
Yeah. Well, and I think it's because you want people to see it. And I think that's some of the issue with a lot of making student films. I mean, even when I was on, campus at USC and other people that I've been in contact with who went to Chapman or UCLA or, some of the different schools, a lot of the projects that are made are just dumb. Like nobody wants to see them.
Really self-indulgent.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just like you guys, like, I get what you're trying to say here. Like, sure, it might be interesting to this like very like microcosm group of folks, but you're never going to be able to finance this and make money.
Right.
Like, and that's ultimately what you need to make a movie is money.
Right.
And to make money, it has to be a viable product.
Well, I used to tell people, they go, so define, when I was at one of the, what's the studio model? I'm like, it's a bank.
Yeah.
It's just a bank. They want to finance things that make the money. Now it happens to be art. And, there's my first day of film class last semester, the film teacher came in and he said, is filmmaking a business or is it art? And I said, it depends who you ask. If you ask someone at the studio, they're going to say it's business. The director, DP, whoever is going to say it's art. And they want to make their money back, which is reasonable. You got to understand that it's a business, but there's also there's a constant push and pull. That's why we have things like director's cuts, because this is what my artistic vision was. And that same teacher, he used to say, idealism is wanting to be Kubrick. Realism is realizing that you aren't. So there's that balance of like, am I going to make some super heady, cerebral, really avant-garde thing that 5 people are going to get? Am I going to make a holy mountain, or am I going to make something that like is, this is predictable and we know where it's going. It's 90 pages. We get it, but we love it because it's well done. Is it going to be, another action movie or a rom-com, which people love because it's like, I know what to expect. This is the genre that I like, rather than trying to have my mind blown at every step and be, layers of depth. That's sometimes you don't always have to, swing for the outfield. That's a sports reference for me, which is a big deal. So,
well, I think one of the scripts that people often look to say it's the perfect script is Back to the Future.
Right.
And Back to the Future is popcorn. I mean, it's like, there's nothing that's like, I don't know, like philosophically challenging me in Back to the Future.
No ethical dilemmas.
And everybody, so many people, this is the perfect script. And it's like, well, on one hand, it is like it's solid. It goes through. I think Zootopia was a really good script, and has message to it, and obviously making statements about acceptance and different kind of things. But it's still a good script, and there's just elements to a story that need to be there for people to be able to digest it, because that's what they're used to receiving. And if you get too far outside of that, people lose your voice because they don't understand you anymore. It's like, speaking in a different language. I
was just reading some today on No Film School, their Facebook page. If you got to check this out. It was these 4 or 5 students at some university back east that basically found out that Kurt Vonnegut's proposal that all film and literary stories kind of fall into 6 different arcs was accurate. And they basically ran it through like an algorithm, essentially, and you can graph them based on, quality of life of the main character and then time of the story, and they all kind of fall into these 6 like sine wave looking arcs. And I remember learning about a book that just recently has kind of been used as like the framework for Marvel movies called Save the Cat. It's this guy that wrote this, and it's kind of the new model for like that type of story arc and the hero's journey. And they get these names over time but we can only tell so many stories because we only know what's familiar to us. So we can only pull from like the human experience, and that's gonna replicate itself at some point. Very rarely do we have a movie where we go, I've never seen that storyline. Now, something, one of my favorite movies, Inception, like we can say we've never seen that storyline used before. This dream within a dream, but it's still the hero's journey. It's just got a different shell on it, Yeah.
Well, and I'm guessing, we've never seen it. Well, what about The Matrix, right? Matrix, is in this alternate reality, in this alternate, there's similarities to other films. you don't have to be that far off to be different.
Right.
But you still share way more DNA than you don't.
Right. Well, and then there's No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits, which is the same movie with different leads.
Yeah.
Like 6 months apart. It's like, we've seen this before. It just came out with Ashton and Mila. But so you mentioned that we are a couple hours outside of the Filmmakers Mecca, which, as Brandon and Alex will tell you,
I might even say isn't the Filmmakers Mecca anymore. But
they'll tell you it's quickly spreading. They've had some other guests on who've talked about the spread to New York and some. I think they mentioned. I mean, the guys are in Cincinnati. There's a lot of work being done out there now with all the tax credits in the South. There's a lot of movies getting filmed.
Louisiana,
yeah,
Georgia.
Exactly. I think a big chunk of House of Cards was done in Georgia, if I remember correctly. I want to talk about the experience of being in Southern California. I mean, our whole lives, we take it for granted, but then when you talk to other people, they're like, California, like that's, my brother-in-law's family came out from Wisconsin a few years ago to our little city of 100,000 people. And they said, where's all the movie stars? And we went, oh yeah, we forgot. Like when you're from Wisconsin, like all of California is LA and then San Francisco.
Just sad.
It's just, but I don't know anything outside of California. It's California, Texas, New York, and that's the U.S. There is, having lived in LA for a few years, worked on a very shallow end of the industry. I don't claim to be some veteran, but seeing it from the inside and coming back out, there is a huge difference. There's not a camera rental house on every corner down here. I don't run into DPs in my day-to-day life. It's rare that I meet someone in film. I just found a guy who does post and color work for like some pretty big clients, and he lives locally, and I was shocked. So what do you think your experience has been as a filmmaker, being in California, but not necessarily always being in LA? How does that kind of affect your experience?
Well, I think I went to school in LA, so I kind of felt like this isn't what I want to do. The traffic's
Pierce
so
College,
bad.
Pierce Community College.
Yeah.
Right? Where'd you go? Where'd you go to school?
USC. I already said that.
USC. Just want to hit it home.
The real USC.
The real USC.
The one that's copywritten, not South Carolina. I work for a company in South Carolina, so that's kind of a joke that I dig on them all the time. Maybe one of them are listening. It just the traffic and the crowdedness and the everything. I was just kind of like, it's stifling to my voice. I want to be out a little bit and not spending a third of my life on the freeway to go 10 minutes down or 10 miles down the road.
Right.
But it's interesting because even though we're right outside of LA, there is this kind of awareness, that there's like, oh yeah, that's over there. And there are people who are like, oh, I'd like to do that. So, one of the things that it was interesting to me is I have good friends in LA, and they're kind of like sounding boards for me. I'll like, hey, do you want to come do this or you want to come do that? And it's interesting in my role as kind of a director producer. I'm pulling them out here. And then it's almost like a breath of fresh air for them because it's not quite the pace. We're getting stuff done, we're moving forward, but we're a smaller crew, a smaller group of folks, and we're just wearing more hats, and it's a little bit more, I don't know, like it's still professional, but it's a little more family, because we're all leaning on each other. We're like, okay, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's just a different environment. So they enjoy being able to be a part of something like that, and a lot of independent film is like that. You're calling in favors. These are friends. It's not the Marvel movie where you have 10,000 people that worked on this movie, and many of them are just locked in a room doing special effects.
Like on your movie right now, the guy who's shooting the behind the scenes documentary footage is the same guy who's doing the, marketing collateral. And that just happens to be me. So we're all wearing multiple hats.
The score.
And the score.
Yeah, don't forget about that.
And getting everyone's coffee.
Yes.
And if LA, if we're in The Lion King, LA is Pride Rock. We are everything in the shadows that Simba was not supposed to go. We're out there, and if there's like a force field that's like, oh, I'm in LA now. Mm-hmm. Everyone in Starbucks is on their Mac writing a script.
Yeah.
It's just the thing. It's like, oh, let me guess, you're starting a web series? Yeah, I know. Like, it's everyone. I find that out here, there's also a lot less reliance on credits because the clients just aren't that big.
Yeah.
I got an animation project I'm working on right now that's just, my love song to After Effects, and it's intense. It's like going to be a few hundred hours of work, and I'm telling, well, what's this huge client for? It's one of the bigger jobs I've gotten since I started Firehouse, and it's great. But I have to kind of tell people, you've never heard of this company, but their clients are Fortune 50 clients. So it's like, well, the work I'm going to be, the work I'm doing is going to be seen by huge clients like next week. Like people that I would die to have on my roster, but there's the middleman. So it's like, we can't just be like, oh, I've done work for so-and-so, because around here, the work that the name you'd be dropping is not ever going to be that impressive. The music video I just got done shooting a couple weeks ago, the guy who did our drone footage has done stuff for like Hulu and like Morgan Freeman's show and like Discovery Channel. Like the guy's a boss, but that's like an everyday dude who will do a music video because he's a buddy of the singer in the band. But that's just the people you run into is I'm a PA on this show. It's like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's closer than I'll ever get to, that level of accomplishment. So it's just, there's a definite difference. And there's times where I have to, look to my friends who are in LA, be like, hey, do you know a reference for a voiceover actor? Or, and there's just a difference when you see people who are like, I used to working on sets. I'm there every day. I'm used to handling, exclusive equipment that you don't buy, you rent because it's for production level stuff. And I'm used to working on these stressful environments in these 14-hour days. And my family friend of mine is a PA on a bunch of commercial stuff. And he's working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. He's like, I'm never home. Got this sweet place in Long Beach, but I'm working on an Acura commercial. And tomorrow it's something for Tropicana. And, but that's the majority of the industry is just working level guys who aren't going to get their names and credits up top, it's people like us who are making characters talk for internal training videos.
Well, and I think that it's changing drastically. I mean, you look at like Freddie Wong and even like Andrew Kramer. I don't know if Andrew Kramer Video Copilot net or .com. I don't remember. And then Freddie Wong, I think they do this Rocket something that they just. I mean, I've been watching his videos on YouTube for years. I think it's Rocket Jump. They did.
Okay. Rocket. Yeah.
He's got a video game high school or something like that, and the internet has opened up a distribution arm that's open to everyone, and it's changing the way that content is consumed. So LA is just not really a film mecca anymore in the sense that it was before. I mean, there's a lot of filmmaking going on, but a lot of that is driven by Screen Actors Guild, just because of the 30-mile zone and where people can be hired in, and you don't have to pay travel and things like this. So there's a lot of actors there, and it kind of draws the actors in, and there's a lot of production going on, obviously, because the studios are there. But I mean, Toronto, even Dallas, and I mean, there's a ton
of stuff being made in Toronto.
Yeah, so I think even when we're talking about, I hate to even say production and quality stuff. I mean, I think even things that we're talking about that are studio driven with major financial backing, kind of make that distinguishment or distinguishing comment. Those are very often being filmed in other places than LA.
Yeah.
I think, you are getting a lot more independent stuff in LA because there's people who work on that occasionally, but they need to fill the rest of their year. And you get a lot of kind of film stuff made because the actors are there. So, if you're in LA, you might be able to get an actor who normally would cost, $10, $15, maybe $25,000 a day, and you can get them for $5,000, maybe $7,000 a day because it's local and they can be at home at night with their kids. Things like that make a difference.
Well, and crew too. I mean, the cost of crew is going to snowball even on a smaller, few day commercial production for a car. I mean, there's a 40, 50 person crew on that stuff, and they all got to drive home, and you're paying for their, day rates and all that kind of stuff. And just having them local makes a huge difference. And I think, like a lot of those bigger name DPs, directors, whatever, they're going to also take on smaller stuff on their off time. I mean, these guys are directing music videos and commercials and they can be really selective about it, but you hear about stuff like that because, like, yeah, dude, it was in LA and I finished my movie 3 months ago and I'm waiting for the next project and this is a good filler.
But there's a ton of crew in Toronto, in Nashville, in Dallas.
There's a market for it.
Everywhere.
Right.
Like, you can go to almost any major city now and get a solid crew together to make your movie.
Alex and Brandon were actually just talking about that. Apparently, I've never been there, in Cincinnati, there's a big network now.
Yeah.
And it's, hey, I know a guy who knows a guy, we're working on this music video. I need a gaffer. I got a great guy. The network is building. And I would love to see that where we're at, in the Inland Empire outside of LA. But I don't see it happening just because we are still close enough to LA.
Oh, yeah.
To where on productions of that size, like, well, I'll just go up there and get it.
Yep.
Why would I be here when I can move 2 hours away and be slammed with work?
Yeah.
So we mentioned a few times the Marvel concept, and I have to ask you, there's an ongoing debate on the show about Marvel movies.
Okay.
Whether they are or aren't the worst thing to ever happen to entertainment. So Brandon says Marvel movies, everything about them, superhero movies, I shouldn't pick Marvel. Superhero movies are an insult to the viewer's intelligence. They're a waste of time. It's eye candy. It's fueling stupidity. Alex says, it's just fun entertainment, whatever. It's a good summer flick. I like them. I take them for what they are. I think Iron Man has some great writing. I love Robert Downey Jr. stuff. I like the arcs. Yeah, it's eye candy. It's ridiculous production value with very little depth, but it's just fun. Where do you stand on the superhero movies?
Gosh, I mean, they're movies.
It has to be a 0 or a 10.
This is what I would say. Richard Dean Anderson, who is MacGyver, and more importantly, Jack O'Neill from Stargate, the show.
Already starting off right.
He said in one of the commentaries in the season 6 of Stargate, he said, "We're entertaining lives, not saving them." Wow. And I think that the man is a sage and has major insight. So
you have a connection to Stargate, don't you? Like sleeping at your house right now.
Like, oh yeah, actually I do. My 3-year-old daughter is named Iris, and that is after the prop in the Stargate show. And I try to tell as many people that as possible.
You've just all been one-upped in nerddom by 1,000 points. This guy named a human being after something from Stargate. So that is dedication.
Yeah, Stargate is a great show. I mean,
that's what's still in the air, right? It's just
I hate Stargate Universe. It killed the show.
So what are you watching right now, man? What are you taking in for inspiration, entertainment?
Oh man, I have a newborn and a 3-year-old.
So Baby Einstein.
I'm in the middle of. I am actually watching Baby Einstein.
I'm season 3 into My Little Pony. Yeah.
No, I've seen all of My Little Pony. Friendship
we
is Magic.
We need to have that discussion. What is with the connection to My Little Pony, the Netflix hit series?
Okay, so honestly, I am thankful that I had a daughter because it gave me the opportunity to see My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because the writing is really
Was Friendship
good.
is Magic a commentary on the show?
No,
that's the whole title.
It's the subtitle of the film.
You're
My
not
Little
saying,
Ponies,
by the way, Friendship is Magic.
Because you can go to like the old ponies and they're like acidelic looking.
Lisa Frank
weird.
Nightmare.
Yeah, like, as my wife grew up on.
Right.
And, like there's like solid characters. There's, story arcs that are like Doctor Who, they like go through the whole season.
I don't know. Okay.
My wife said it and she's the Doctor Who fan. So I'm just repeating what's been said.
I'm going to get an email from Brandon. This guy actually just said My Little Pony's on par with Doctor Who. We're going to have to do another episode. Well, I've never seen it because I don't want to completely disrupt my Netflix algorithm and start getting recommendations for like Paw Patrol,
Yeah. Well, it's a of the children's shows, it is very story based,
featuring whimsically colored ponies
that are of the more feminine bent.
Well, unless are you a brony?
No, I would not claim brony.
At least we're not there. No. Man, that would just be.
No, I respect it from a filmmaker's perspective. I'm like, man, these are really, really well done. I mean,
you respect bronies or you respect the show?
I respect the show.
Okay, all right.
Bronies, I'm indifferent on. I mean, to each his own. but I'm not there. I'm a gator or a star gator or whatever that term would be. I would align myself with
that's
their,
your fandom is
their
Stargate.
universe.
But you're a casual appreciator of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
It would be tough to say casual when it's on my television every day because my daughter's watching it.
So you're into the arcs, you know the characters. Like,
oh yeah, I mean I've seen each episode like 4 or 5 times because my daughter's seen each episode like 8 or 10 times. And there's incredible. 6 seasons of this. It's playing.
You can only get through an episode, you know, and then you got to start over again. She gets to the last episode, goes, well, time to start it over. I did that with Parts Unknown.
Yeah,
it's probably my favorite show on Netflix. Have you ever seen Parts Unknown? Anthony Bourdain.
No, I don't think
it's incredible. Like if you're in like documentary style, like. He goes all over the world. It's a little bit food if the culture of the place is pretty, you know, just level-headed and kosher. I mean, he'll go to like Quebec, and obviously they're not involved in any kind of civil war, so it's mostly about food. But it's amazing in the cinematography. Like you guys, you have to check out Parts Unknown with Anthony Bourdain, and their DP was actually on the Go Creative Show podcast with Ben Consoli. Super fascinating. Watch a few episodes and check it out. But and he changes camera packages every episode. They're all over the world. Anthony writes his own, to my knowledge, he writes his own like monologues during the show for his narration. But from a writing standpoint, cinematography, the guy he'll go there and just be like, you know, I came to San Francisco when I was 6 and I had this experience and I want to find that experience again this time. So he kind of makes his own little personal story for every episode. But, that's my Netflix. I might have to dive into My Little Pony.
My Little Pony's good, but I am really looking forward to the next season of The Man in High Castle. I really enjoyed that. Yeah. And I did finish Person of Interest. I'm a big Jim Caviezel fan, and that was, you know, fun to watch. You know, this keeps my attention.
I think we're going to see Man in High Castle with different eyes now after the last 18 months. Just the way things would be now. And I like that they kind of put it in the future a little bit. There's still some kind of cool technological stuff, even though it's the 60s. And the way they just get, I just listened to another podcast with the cinematographer for that show and talking about, you know, when we're in the West Coast is Japanese controlled, correct? Mm-hmm. And then kind of the different lenses and the kind of the different color they go with. And it's just fascinating just to see. And he even said, he goes, it's going to be different moving forward just because we're so politically like engaged still and this coming right in after that. Mm-hmm. And it's just about government and all. So I'm interested. Between that and House of Cards, I think you're going to be heavily binge watched now that people are on that you know, that mindset. So that's kind of what we're watching. Have you seen any movies lately? Anything?
Oh man.
I know you're getting out of the house a bunch for free time, so.
I was more excited about The Magnificent Seven than I have been about any movie in a long time.
What did you think?
I haven't seen it. That's what I was about to say. I have a 3-year-old, so I haven't been able. I mean, my wife had a baby like the week before it came out.
So it's The Magnificent 8 then.
Yeah, well now it is. So I haven't been able to see it yet, and I'm still like just wanting to see it because I love westerns. I mean, I love the western mystique.
I mean, nothing will ever be Seven Samurai, but this movie,
or even the original Magnificent Seven. I mean, the original Magnificent Seven is a really good movie. I enjoyed it a ton.
We saw it, I think, a week after it came out. It is so good. I loved it. I know there's people out there like, well, he missed. I'm like, dude, it's just on a movie on its own.
Yeah,
it's so good. I love anything Chris Pratt's in. I'll see that dude in any.
True.
Like him and like Bradley Cooper. Like there's some guys I will see any movie.
Denzel, Ethan Hawke.
Yeah.
Denzel, he's a bomber. Matthew Bomber. I don't remember if that's Matt Bomber. Yeah. You know, I mean, they're good actors. Like they bring, and there's a variety. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. But I'm gonna have to wait till it comes out on video or Netflix or something like that.
Black Mirror, Netflix. Dude, you have to watch Black Mirror. I haven't seen that. It's not gotten a lot of like. It's not like a Walking Dead or House of Cards. Like you gotta watch this show. It's Twilight Zone. If we kind of focus everything around the power of technology and like what it can do to like us as people and how like, you know, people are getting dumber, like tweets or just, shorthand and everything bad that old people complain about technology generation. It's kind of that on an extreme level. Everything's set slightly in the future. It's like, what if our rank in society as real people was determined by social media statuses? So like people can help us. You basically get Yelp reviewed like 100 times throughout the day, and your score is visible to anyone with their smartphone out and can like see your score, and like you get like better financing on things, and you get invited to better parties and better house. It's pretty.
So it's like high school.
It's just like high school with a number floating over your head. So, what are you working on right now, man? What do you got? Anything graphical related besides? I mean, the movie obviously I'm sure is taking up a ton of time, but
yeah, man. I mean that is it. The film is what I'm working on.
It's almost like making a feature film is a big time constraint.
Yeah.
What phase are we in with that right now?
I mean, we're in pre-production. We just had our first full cast read through. We're still kind of talking to a couple of people just to get another anchor in there as far as a name. So we're pushing for production in February, and we just getting schedules and equipment, and we're definitely starting marketing. I mean, our social media presence has been increased a ton in the last 2 weeks or so. I've got a guy who's doing some materials for promotion that I've been trying to get on to get that done. And
he's talking about me right now. He's talking. You guys can't see the raised eyebrows. He's talking about me.
So looking forward to doing some of that. And
we had an awesome photographer who's going to be the DP on the movie, correct? Gus, what's his last name?
Cantivero.
Gus?
Yeah, it does.
You can say that.
Gus Cantivero Jr.
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, he's super good. It'll be. I mean, he's done a ton of model photography, corporate video. He's done documentary. So he's really versatile.
Yeah. He did all the promo photos with the talent at our kind of prep studio that we've been using, and I'm gonna go through and turn that into some marketing collateral. But I saw the work he was doing. I'm like, man, this guy's phenomenal. And I think he took 16,000 photos just for us to skim through.
Probably, yeah.
But I think it's accurate.
Yeah.
With the budgetary constraints of being on technically classified as micro budget.
Yeah.
Gear wise, what kind of camera package are you guys using for all this?
Well, I mean, jumping back to the financing part, I mean, that was one of the big reasons why I was able to get financing is I have leveraged some of the smaller success that I'd had in the sermon media market and just reinvested all of that into gear. Yeah. So, we're going to film.
You're starving. Your whole family's starving.
My whole family's starving.
But you can
I just work
4K.
2 full-time jobs. We're going to be shooting on a Sony FS700 cool. With the 4K package, and
which you've let me borrow more times than you should have. I love that camera. It's a great.
And we've got we try to get the most bang for the buck. Yeah. So we've got Rokinon lenses. We've got I just ordered yesterday a bunch of Dracast LED lighting. Just really good Black Friday sale, and we've got 10 lights.
You're on the LED train, huh?
Yeah, I mean, well, and this is the reason, right? Because we're going to be shooting in houses,
right?
And I can plug 10 lights in one room and not blow a circuit,
right?
So just when you're on set and thinking,
can't do that with 18Ks.
No, yeah, no. Even just halogens. If I plug a 1K halogen and a 600 halogen into the same circuit, a lot of houses, that's going to bust the circuit. It's going to blow it, and now you're done.
And they stay really cool, right?
The LEDs, yeah. The halogens will
melt your face off, like a guitar solo.
Yes,
but
yes.
So, you're kind of going. I mean, you actually own all this gear now.
Yeah. So that was I was saying is that when I'm coming to investors, I'm bringing like $20,000-$25,000 worth of equipment.
And your personal equipment.
My personal equipment.
Right.
So this is money they don't have to buy. So, I go and say, look, like we're trying to raise $100,000, but I'm bringing $30,000.
Did you find that hard to justify? Like, I've got this, like, dude, a camera's a camera. It doesn't make any difference whether you're shooting it on this or, an Alexa. I don't care. Or did that point really hit home with them about how much they were,
Well, I mean, It does, yeah. Like because they don't know the equipment, they just know the number,
Right.
And the number's real.
It's $25,000 less than you would have had to invest.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. So I mean, like there's a huge portion of the budget that's going towards equipment, but we're being very judicious, and what do we need, what do we don't, or what don't we need?
What was the thing you prioritized most that you still had to get that were like, this is a deal breaker. I have to have this version of this thing. Like that was like your priority as far as gear.
A dolly. I mean, we just wanted to make sure we had a dolly that would work.
My backpack was the most valuable part of my college career. That's what that was.
I mean, you want movement, right? I mean, camera movement is really important to have. Yeah. So, my DP and I sat down and we talked about it, and we said, there's a lot of buzz with Movi and all of these other, gimbal rigs. And, we'd love to have a steady cam or something like that. But when it really comes down to it,
nothing better than a long doorway push, man.
Yeah, we're making a romantic comedy. We're not making
the whole movie's just long pushes.
Yeah, like it's just like you need that motion. So yeah, that was something we were like, okay, we're gonna get that.
Did you guys already pick that up?
Yeah, we actually, Kessler had a 15% off thing on Black Friday. So we were scouring eBay looking for stuff. And that was another thing that, I talked about with my investors early on was, hey, look, we have to get this equipment. And I told them, I'm not going to rent it, because what I want to be able to do is buy the equipment we need. And if we can buy it used, then we'll buy it used and we'll resell it at the end.
Nice.
So, yeah, we're going to take
I did that with my prom dress. I returned it the next day after I wore it.
That was an ugly prom dress.
Sorry, I totally got you off track there. I just couldn't help it.
So
you're gonna resell the gear though when you're done.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just you got to think about it in a business perspective. How do we? At the end of the day, the goal is not just to get the movie made. The goal is to get the movie seen.
Right.
To get people to pay to see it.
Right. So the less overhead that
Yeah.
Are you going to be renting stuff for the production?
Yeah, I mean, we may rent a gimbal for 1 or 2 of the days,
Gotcha.
and spend a couple $100 instead of a couple thousand.
Restructure all your shootings, all the movie days are the same.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we have to do, right?
Ignoring locations, we're going back based on where we're going based on what the movie is going to be used for.
Locations will be the primary.
Man, I just got off the music video shoot I mentioned. I think you saw it. It was a band called Midnight Divide in LA. Check them out. It's midnightdivide.com. Sort of a Bastille, Imagine Dragons kind of, edgy pop thing.
I don't know what any of that is.
Well, it's what all the kids are listening to these days. It's kind of like Nirvana, but different.
Who's Nirvana?
Oh, man. It was 5 days, and we went to Malibu, went to... where we go? Went to this decrepit, dilapidated warehouse in Chinatown. That's a prop warehouse. It was just, you can't manufacture this kind of creepiness. Just graffiti and then like wooden, oversized clown facades and just weird stuff that was just totally cool for atmosphere that you just can't make up. And it had been there for a long time. There's like ceiling tiles missing and birds that are just like nesting up there. So cool. And so we shot in there we had the place from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. is when we shot. And let me tell you, 5 a.m. wrapping, you are deliriously tired. Not that you've never been awake that late. You went to college. But just shooting, I was being super careful not to drop the ball on anything because I'm so tired. I'm like out of it, packing up a full set worth of equipment, 2 cameras, lights, everything myself. And I was using the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 4.6K, which is my new favorite camera. I'm going to buy that thing as soon as I can. I loved it. I rented it from Lens Rentals, actually on Alex's recommendation, so thanks for that. And it records to CFast cards. There's 2 CFast cards in there. Well, I brought my iMac with me on set and was doing some screen tests with it. So while they were filling up, we were breaking and dumping footage. And on the last footage dump, I dumped the first card twice instead of doing 1 and 2. Well, we're good. The second card had all of this 120 frames a second, like ultra high speed stuff of Austin, the singer, completely destroying all the furniture we had in the set, smashing bookshelves, like one-time kind of stuff. and like, hey, catch this baby being born, like big important things.
Yeah.
Ultra slow-mo, the stuff I did time lapse of him for 20 minutes of writing paper out to fill up the desk and throwing all the pages, and it looked amazing. Because that was all on the second card and I inputted the first card twice, the next day when we went to go shoot, I reformatted both cards before starting shooting. So I told him, I was like, hey man, in 5 a.m. delirium, lost like 2 hours of footage. He's like, okay, well, hopefully it was just like the slow motion singing stuff we can redo. I was like, no, it was the destroying all of the furniture that we bought on Craigslist and all the slow motion one time kind of stuff. He's like, well, it is what it is, you know? So we actually made it work. We kind of had to restructure some story elements because of it. So that was interesting. But the video is going to be coming out in the next couple weeks. I will for sure be posting it on my own Vimeo, which is vimeo.com/wearethefirehouse. We'll be going up there, and the band will be posting it. But that's probably the most recent thing. That and that an animation project I mentioned, which is really After Effects heavy. So I've been working on that too. What are you excited about coming up, man? As far as, you know, work related stuff, or, you know, new gear you saw, new project you got on the horizon, you know?
My whole life is the feature.
He's crying right now. You can't see, but he's actually crying.
I mean, you know, False Hopes the movie is my singular project. It's just multiple projects that are part of that.
I feel like you should have gone with False Hopes Friendship is Magic.
That, you know, probably would have been more.
You would have really gotten that, like,
demographic.
That 2 to 5 year old demo.
Yeah.
So I mean, really, everything is consuming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's each step. You know, I mean, like right now, I'm excited because I have what I call my APPA. She's my associate producer, production assistant.
who is awesome, by the way. She's really cool.
She does a really great job, and you know, and then people are just wearing multiple hats, and she's allowed me to take 2 or 3 hats off and kind of hand them to her. So that's been huge. So, you know,
she's one of those people you can tell she's like super good at like spinning multiple plates, and that is so valuable. I mean, she went to film school, like she knows her stuff, but also like I was seeing her work, and I'm like, oh, this is such a huge help to Dave just to have that somebody just go here, handle it, and it's taken care of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the beauty of film. I mean, I guess just being able to work with other people. You know, I mean, it's a collaborative medium, and that's one of the things that I am excited about with this project is a lot of times when you're working on smaller projects, it's you and a few people. Right. I mean, you know, you experience this all the time because you've got that one man band thing, and you know, I mean, you're limited to the story you can tell. You're limited to the things that you see, and when you bring a full team in, like you have all these other eyes.
Right. It's funny you mention that. Like a few days ago, after we left shooting some behind the scenes stuff for your feature in Corona, I had to drive down here for a client commercial that I had booked for a few weeks. There was a misunderstanding, and they thought we were starting 2 hours sooner than we actually were. So when I left with you, I like threw down, I mean, backdrop, 3-point lighting, camera, recorder, I mean, audio, everything, in I think 45 minutes. And then came down here, and their realtors, who are pretty well known in the area, they got a really great reputation. So I told them, I said, let's make this like a kind of a human interest thing. And the one man band thing like killed me because I was flying down here. I threw up a backdrop, again, the 3-point lighting system. The entire rig I used for you, I tore it down and then set it all back up 2 hours later by myself.
Yeah.
And so we had basically 40 minutes to set up this entire rig and be ready to hit record because we had people who were like volunteers showing up to give testimonials. And I'm doing all this myself. I have no one to check the second camera. So I'm kind of hopping back. I tell talent, like, don't look at me if you see me move between cameras, like ignore me. You know, resetting things as we're shooting. And luckily, you know, when I was going through editing multicam, I can kind of, I was fixing it there. I can go to the other one. But I'm now, after that day last weekend, I was like, okay, from now on, I'm going to pay someone to come with me and like just be a PA basically. And I was like, oh, I don't need that. I was like, no, I'm getting to the point where I was like, I need it. So things like deleting 2 hours of footage at 5 a.m. don't happen. And, you know, these people, one of the groups we had, I didn't hit record on my audio recorder and I thought I had stopped it, but I actually put it on standby and, you know, lost it. It's just stuff like that. I'm like, because I'm like, there's so many million things going on. I'm like, I need to start bringing someone. So the one man band thing, I know there's a lot of people out there doing it. My whole thing is like, if someone, say a band, were to come to me, I could be like, I will produce your EP, I will do your album artwork, I'll shoot your music video, I'll do your website, I'll do your merch. Like, I can do all of it, but it's really stressful. So now I'm starting to sub out more stuff. I don't know if you found yourself doing that too at some point, kind of, hey, you can help me with this. You know, I got to offload some work to kind of keep your sanity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that you can have a lot of talents, and it's good to have a lot of talents. You know, it's good to have expertise in different areas, but you can really only have a limited amount of focus.
Right. Yep.
And, you know, I mean, there's that old saying, you know, you're a jack of all trades or jack of all trades, but a master of none. I think that's at any given time.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, you can be a jack of all trades, but if you are required to have a few masters coming in and work on one thing together, then you create something that is more than any one of them could have created. Right. And that's, I think, the best films, like, that's what happens, right? I mean, it just
delegation.
You know, you give people ownership, and you allow them to take that ownership. You know, I mean, one of the things when I'm working on set with actors and I mean, anything with crew and things like that, you know, at SC, when we were talking about auteur theory, or, you know, whose voice is it, like, whose vision is it in the film itself? Is that the director? Is that the producer? Is it the writer? You know, who is the voice? And you know, talk about film coming out of the stage, where, you know, on the stage, the writer is God. Like, you do not change God's words. And not unless you pay heavily for it from the company that owns God. But in film, you know, I mean, that was not the case. It's a visual medium, so they say, oh, it's the director's voice. And I mean, when I'm on a set, I don't feel like I'm striving to get my voice heard. I'm striving to get everybody's voice in tune, so that there's a much more melodic, like, song coming out from them together that's greater than any one of us could have created on our own. And I think that is hard to create situation-wise, because people can't make a living on that a lot of the time, like being a master of one thing. Right. And that's the major advantage, I think, that, you know, when you get into the Hollywood system, is there's just such a glut of money that they can have masters
of just one thing.
Of one thing. And you have this, you know, crew, and, you know, they get to the point where, you know, my wife and I were talking about, you know, another thing on Netflix, some kind of collection of Disney cartoons. And, you know, they do this little intro to each cartoon. And she said, they sent the team of animators to Europe to go and study this stuff. And she's like, that's dumb.
Pixar does that a lot with animal stuff. They'll have them study fish movement for 6 months before Nemo.
Or they paid to have puppies come into the office, or,
that
you know,
was
like,
just for therapy.
Yeah. And she's like, we live in an age of Google. Like, just Google it. Like, you
Google what do puppies do?
Like, I mean, watch a couple of YouTube
What
videos.
does a puppy look like?
And I just kind of laughed at her, because I thought, you know, she's funny.
True,
that she speaks truth, but they have a ton of money. So what else are they going to spend it on, you know?
Well, the concept of just, you know, Star Wagons and craft services. Like, oh, no, you guys don't have to leave for lunch. We're going to have food catered by...
Now, hold on a second, because that is actually very important. My wife talks about this all the time. It's like, there is no other industry in the world, no other thing in the world where it's like lunch is assumed that it's like a non-negotiable. Like, you have to provide food. And I was like, honey, like, here's the thing. You cannot trust these people to leave and get back on time.
No, right, yeah.
It's worth the money to keep them on set.
Well, and especially in LA, for them to go from CBS to the Grove, which is 2 blocks away, would be an entire lunch break.
Yeah.
I think that was, you know, at Warner, I just drive around and see the wagons. I'm like, you know, at what other job? Because these follow workplace rules. You know, you can't smoke a cigarette in California now on a movie set because it's considered a workplace. So we have to follow these rules. But what other workplace do you get a trailer to hang out in when there's some downtime?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not shooting right now because they're setting up lights. I'm going to be in my trailer for the next hour and a half, just hanging out. Like, at every other job, it's like, I don't know, man, clean the countertops, restock do something. Now it's just like, hey, that's not their job. You know, there's this gaffer's sitting here right now because there's nothing, he's not at that stage of his job yet. there's a lot of hurry up and wait. But yeah, it's definitely different than
it's changing. I mean, that's the thing that I think, Netflix and, Amazon and I mean, even Hulu and whatnot, where they're getting into the production game and they have the analytics to back up what they want to make.
Custom tailoring their shows.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's changing things drastically in what's created, but things like YouTube and Amazon, I mean, really looking at Amazon as a distribution platform, you can put your stuff on Amazon to sell, and you can choose whether it's a create on demand, view on demand, free with Prime, create your own channel. Right. I mean, they have different models, and I mean, it's not you're not getting as high a percentage as if you were looking at other distribution options. But it's an open distribution option, and it's to the entire world.
Yeah.
So
and there was I can't remember what show it was. I don't want to misquote it. There was a show recently. I think it was Netflix, where they basically created the show to fill in an assumed like algorithmic like response of based on what most people are watching right now, this type of show would kill, and then they made that show.
Yes.
I can't remember what show it was. Really recently, I just heard about this.
I have no idea, but they do it every time.
It was like, oh, they like this, this, and this, and this. That means they'll like this, so we're gonna make that show.
And that is, I love Netflix, and I generally watch Netflix, but Amazon in the end has the advantage.
Why is that?
Because you buy everything from Amazon, and they're tracking it. So they know what your interests are, not just film-wise.
I see. I was like in the market shop to regular stuff.
Yeah. I mean, they like...
So I'm going to start getting film recommendations about alarm clocks with USB ports on them.
Sure.
I mean, or a bunch of camera gear now.
Well, I mean, if you think about, not only do they just have that extra layer of information about you.
It's like Facebook or Google. Where they just go super deep into your...
Yep.
I'm getting Instagram ads now that are responsive based on what I've been looking at on Amazon. Like I saw Instagram ads that are tailored with like lens ads and like digital record ads. I'm like, how do they? That's crazy. I think I didn't look at the Amazon's got the advantage of just having all of the data, not just viewer data.
Not just viewer data. And I mean, I think that Netflix is a more mature distribution platform, and and they were. Definitely, at the forefront.
I forget to even look on Amazon. There's times where I'm like, oh, it's not streaming anywhere. Oh, wait, Amazon is everything. It's like, iTunes or I always forget to go there. So
well, and they have, they have that advantage of bringing in other value, to Prime and different kind of things. So I'm curious, as I watch Amazon. I mean, I still prefer Netflix. I mean, I do most of my viewing on Netflix, but I mean, I have Prime for the other stuff. Mm-hmm. And like Man in High Castle, I love that show. I think it's really good.
I was house sitting for a friend this last week, and he had one of the new Apple TVs. I know you got an Apple beef. Just let me get there. One of the new Apple TVs, and I'm like, this thing's great. I'm looking at it going, I've already kind of cut cables before, but I'm like, I'm just gonna get a TV and an Apple TV, and it's got HBO Now and Netflix, which are kind of my two main things. And got to get up on Westworld and all that. HBO Now, Netflix. I think I can put Amazon on there. And then I was like, I've been really into This Is Us, that NBC show. But I'm like, it's network. It's not going to be on here. Like, no, there's an NBC app. I can I'm looking at the math going, for $160 for an Apple TV or whatever it is, and then $60 a month altogether for all the different streaming services. And I can cancel any one at any time at will versus like $200 a month to get TV. I was like, it just makes so much more sense.
Well, MLB, their app. The MLB app is the infrastructure for like the HBO Go app and a number of other apps. Like they did revolutionary design or something of that sort. And MLB, I've been a subscriber. I'm a huge baseball fan. Go Angels next year. Mike Trout.
Yeah, I'm hoping that guy scores more points than the other guy.
Yeah, you don't even start. But that infrastructure is used, and their app is used in a number of different places. The interesting thing that has kept so many people from cutting the plug is sports. And I mean, I watch streaming ball games all the time.
You think
on
once
my
like
phone.
football or soccer switches over,
Once
that's really it.
once they switch over, I mean, it's going to be really interesting.
I used to just
see how
keep
goes.
it because I'm a big like late night talk. I love Jimmy Fallon, all those guys. I'm like, I don't want to lose that, so I'd keep local.
Yeah, but I mean, like Chelsea Handler has I think that's her name, has the Netflix or Amazon. Yeah, not a fan, but
No,
I
yeah, I got you.
do know. I mean, like she's late night.
Well, all these guys are
talk
starting
person.
to have their stuff on the NBC or CBS apps, whatever. And
Well, and I mean, she's on Netflix though.
exclusive.
Right. So I mean, and sure, Netflix does the binge release, but when they make that, because they've already started with her, when they start making that transition to weekly release shows as well that are more current.
Like John Oliver, I think, he's HBO, but yeah.
Yeah, he's on HBO, but it just opens up a whole nother realm for them, and I think that's the next place they're going to go.
Right. Well, cool, man. Dave, it's been great having you around to talk about it. What do you got a link, something like that? Some people can check your stuff out, get in touch with the movie, kind of see what's going on with everything, keep up on it.
Yeah, if you want to check it out, best place to find it right now is on Facebook. False Hopes, the movie. We've got a Facebook page on there, and then DVM, D as in Deo, V as in Volente, and M as in Media. It's a terrible name to have anyone remember, but dvmfilm.com. That's our production company website, and we'll have a False Hopes, the movie.
The process of renovating that
as
is
soon as I can get my
that your guy gets on
to
it.
get on that.
My stuff is wearethefirehouse.com, Firehouse Creative, on Instagram at Firehouse Creative. Stay up to date. I'm usually posting stuff I'm working on, reposting cool stuff, sharing some articles. Want to thank Brandon and Alex again for giving us the chance to do this. It's been really great, and I look forward. I already got some hopeful people lined up here if we get to do more episodes, and keep supporting FTB podcast in your local film community, and get out there and shoot and tell some stories. Thanks, guys.
That's what I'm talking about. That right there. That's what this show's about. It's about the film community coming together, hearing from different regions all over the country, all over the world. FDB listener-created content. You only get that right here on Filmmakers Drinking Bourbon. This podcast was recorded live at Sound Images Studio. Find out more at soundimages.com.